Cardington is a small town in the heartland of America. Just another dot on the map. But no one ever farms the western field after sundown. No law forbids it. No signs mark its boundary. Yet everyone knows something waits there. They call it the 13th field, not listed on any official records, though it lies directly behind the last line of harvested land. The soil is rich, yet crops never grow above the knees. Birds never land there. Horses panic even when blindfolded. In 1931, a German immigrant family attempted to settle on that land. They built a tent, brought 3 children, and began tilling the earth. By morning, 4 corpses lay scattered, each one missing their eyes. Only the youngest boy survived, hiding in a dirt hole, whispering one phrase in his native tongue. It wears a crown made of human hands. Since then, the field has been left alone. But every few decades, someone disappears. The last was Emily Baird in 1964, a film student documenting abandoned farmland. She filmed herself at 3 a.m. under the full moon. Only one tape survived. It ends with static, and a bloody, eyeless face appearing behind her. Elders say the land was once used by an ancient sect. Older than the nation. They practiced dark ritual sin-eater ceremonies designed to trap evil souls beneath the soil using blood and ash. But when the rites failed, the spirit lingered, cursed to wander. If disturbed, it would return stronger, hungrier, hateful. Years later, a farmer found a jar buried beneath a charred oak in the center of the field. Inside was a journal, half Latin, half Celtic. One line was clearly translated. "We buried him beneath 7 layers of earth, sealed with blood and lamb's ash. But his shadow still dances on the grass. He is not bound. He is watching." Some believe he no longer waits in the field. He found a new host. A man among men, who hungers in silence. And on a summer night in 1979, when Weston B. Mills stepped down from his combine to check what got stuck in the blades, he didn't know he had just entered the center of that ancient circle. And when a voice whispered his name from the trees, it wasn't his imagination. That's when the real story begins. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dried cornfield. Weston B. Mills was wrapping up his final row, guiding the old combine with the ease of a man who'd done it for 3 decades. The machine groaned as if protesting, and then stopped. He climbed down slowly, heavy boots thudding against the metal steps. The dry evening air was still, unnaturally still. He flipped the floodlight switch, and a pale cone of light stretched across the rows of corn. Something had jammed the blades. Then he heard it. A whisper. His name. Weston. He turned fast, expecting maybe a neighbor, a kid playing a prank, but no one was there. Just trees, black against the dusk. A faint outline stood between them, something unnaturally tall, motionless, half in shadow, half illuminated by the combined light. He staggered back, hit the tire, and fell into the dirt. His breath caught in his throat. It wasn't a man. Its head scraped the lower branches, and its arms were long, jointed wrong, like bones pulled out of alignment. Weston had read about things like this, old stories, whispered legends of creatures that feed on memory and sin. But seeing one, standing only 20 feet away, was something else. The thing didn't move. It watched. Then it took a single step forward. He ran. Into the corn, heart pounding. The stalk sliced at his arms. Behind him, he heard it crashing through the dry husks, closer, faster than anything that size should move. But Weston had been a track star once. His legs remembered. He focused on the weather vane on top of the barn. He sprinted for it like it was salvation. As he broke through the corn and reached the stable, the horses were already screaming. Hay felt it too. Weston jumped the fence, grabbed the pitchfork from the wall, and backed into the corner, facing the open doorway. The horses went quiet. Dead quiet. frozen in place, like statues. Then something seized his ankle and ripped him sideways through the wall. He hit the ground 30 yards away, dazed, ears ringing, chest burning. And yet, he still held the pitchfork. He had no time to think. The thing leapt. He drove the steel tines upward. The beast snarled, the pitchfork piercing flesh, stopping at inches from his face. Its breath was wet, reeking of rot and burnt meat. Its black saliva trickled down his cheek. Still pressing the pitchfork, Weston twisted with all his strength. The weight of the creature was unbearable. He slipped, rolled to the side, scrambled up just as it whispered again. "Weston, wait." He froze. His voice wasn't like before. It sounded familiar. Human. "How do you know my name?" he asked. It paused, breathing shallow. Then answered, low and cold. "I know you. I've watched you since the beginning." A cold wave passed over Weston's body. Something ancient had recognized him. And for the first time that night, he realized this wasn't random. This was fate. And that creature in the dark was not just a monster. It was something that remembered what it used to be. The creature lay still, impaled, breath shallow, but its eyes, black and endless, watched Weston with human recognition. Then it spoke. "I was born Gilder race. In the year 1405. Near a place once called Andrew, in the southern countryside of France." The words came slow, dragged from something buried centuries deep. Weston stood frozen, pitchfork trembling in his hands. "I was not like others," it continued. "Even as a child, I found joy in watching things suffer. The insects I crushed, the animals I maimed, they sang to me in a way no hymns ever could. I tried to suppress it. For years. But evil grows, like rot beneath fine skin. And when it breaks through, it consumes." Weston didn't move. Couldn't. He was staring not at a beast, but at a confession centuries overdue. "At 32, I finally gave in," it said. "The first child came to me one foggy night. I was drunk. But that didn't stop me. Nothing did. Not after that." Its voice was distant now, like echoing through a ruined chapel. "I built a chamber in my estate. Chateau de Race. It became a shrine to what I was becoming. For years, I paid my servants to find children. Orphaned. Forgotten. I told myself it was mercy, better to be remembered by me than to starve in the cold. But it wasn't mercy. It was worship. I became a god in my own mind. The room had once been stone. But blood made it soft. Over time, the black tower emerged, rising above the estate, a monument to pain. People in nearby towns whispered. Children vanished. Armas saw shadows moving in daylight. Ohms said they saw a tower no one remembered building. And then, one child escaped. Not far. Not fast. But enough. When soldiers stormed the chateau, they found what no man should see. Bodies displayed like trophies. Walls carved with symbols older than language. And Gilder, waiting, dressed in red, covered in dry blood, sitting in silence beneath the black tower. They didn't speak to him. They didn't question him. They simply dragged him to the gallows. He died smiling. But something didn't end. He remembered the snap of the rope, the dark abyss that followed, and then waking up, gasping, in a forest he didn't know. His body was no longer human. His mind, still cursed with memory. "Hell didn't want me," he said. "They sent me back. Reborn in shape but not in soul. Cursed to walk this earth until the blood debt is paid." Weston stared as the creature shifted, bones crackling. "I am not the only one," it said, voice breaking through the silence like a blade through flesh. "There are others, lost between death and damnation." Weston's breath caught in his throat. The creature's gaze was fixed, not on him, but somewhere far older than the room they stood in. They call us the Unforgiven ones. Monsters whose evil ran so deep, even hell refused us. Murderers, torturers, betrayers of God. When we died, the ground didn't swallow us. It spat us back out. Its voice turned hollow. Remorseful. But beneath that was hunger. We are cursed to wander in the form of beasts, hideous, immortal, starving. We are bound not by chains, but by the blood we spilled. Weston's mind reeled. He remembered stories from childhood, of faceless men in fog, whispers in empty houses, entire villages wiped out overnight. Legends, they said. Fairy tales. But what if they weren't? There was a time, the creature rasped, when there were only 7 of us. Now, we are 13. Each born from an act so vile, it shattered the veil between the living and the damned. One was a priest who fed his congregation poison, calling it the blood of salvation. One was a midwife who offered newborns to ancient things beneath the marsh. One still walks the mountains of Romania, wearing the skin of those who dared climb too far. They are scattered. Hiding. Waiting. But we are drawn to places where death lingers. Graveyards. Battlefields. Forgotten lands cursed by time. He spoke of the hollow chapel in Belgium, where windows bleed and statues scream. Of the black well in Morocco, sealed with 12 children's skulls. Of a town in Argentina that vanished in one night, leaving only one thing behind, a book written in no known language. Repeating the same phrase across every page. They walk again. The curse is not just our punishment, he growled. It is a virus. A darkness that spreads when seen. When remembered. Your world keeps creating us. Through hatred. War. Envy. Lies. Weston's legs trembled. He beast took a breath that sounded like fire through broken glass. I know what you are, it whispered. I knew the day you were born. I watched from the tree line as your mother screamed you into this world. You carry the mark, Weston. Not of sin, but of judgment. Then silence fell like a coffin lid. Cold. Final. But from that silence came one last truth. If I die tonight, the others will feel it. And they will come. For you. Before I became this, the creature said, its voice like wind through a crypt, I sought to cleanse myself, not with prayer, but with blood. It dragged its claw across the dirt, tracing an ancient symbol that pulsed with a forgotten rhythm. There is an old ritual, it whispered. Forbidden by the church. Feared by the coven. It is called the Sin Eater Rite. In some corners of the world, it was once believed that a man could be absolved of his sins, if another was willing to devour them. Weston watched in stunned silence. Not metaphorically, the creature continued. Physically. The eater consumes a piece of bread, soaked in the blood of the damned. Surrounded by the 7 sigils of sorrow. Then, the sins pass from flesh to flesh. Gilder had read about it in a crumbling codex hidden beneath the altar of a burned monastery. A book written in ink mixed with ash. Bound in human skin. The rite promised release from the torment of the soul, at a cost. I thought I could be free, it said. If I offered enough blood, if I spilled enough innocence. I could find peace. It built an altar beneath the black tower. Sacrificed children in sets of 7. Carved circles in the floor with bones. Recited incantations older than Christ. And in the center of the room, it devoured their remains, whispering the words. I take their weight. I drink their burden. Let me rise untouched. But the ritual never worked. Because the soul cannot be cleansed through evil. Only chained. Each failed attempt left a mark on him. His body blackened. Eyes hollowed. Fingers curled like branches scorched in fire. Until finally, he was no longer a man. Just a vessel overflowing with darkness, with no place to pour it. He became what the books called the reversed one, a sin-eater whose own soul became too tainted to hold others. And so, every sin he consumed, stayed, grew, mutated. Weston felt cold to his bones. The creature's voice dropped into a whisper again. There are others who have tried. A doctor in Prague who used the hearts of convicts. Widow in Kyoto who fed her husband's guilt to a fox spirit. All failed. All became, like me. Then it looked up. You still think this is just a nightmare? The candlelight flickered. Shadows moved. There is a reason your family line was chosen, Weston. It was your ancestor, Jacques Marceau, who led the knights into my chapel. Who set fire to the Black Tower. Who cursed his bloodline by binding my soul with the seventh seal. And now, that seal is breaking. You were never ordinary, the creature rasped, as its form shifted once more, bones snapping back into place with a sound like cracking ice. You were never meant to live a quiet life, Weston. You were made to end me. Weston's heart pounded like a war drum. Sweat cold on his neck. He had spent his life trying to outrun nothing, only to realize that something had been chasing him all along. The signs had always been there. The dreams as a child. The voices in the trees. The red mark on his shoulder shaped like a closed eye. All dismissed as coincidence. As childhood nightmares. But nothing about this was coincidence. You're the seventh, the creature said. The last in the bloodline of those who bound me. The seal your ancestor placed on my soul was never permanent. It needed a vessel, a final witness. Someone who could look into the abyss, and not blink. It had waited generations for Weston's birth. Very death, every turn of fate, had been to lead him to this field, this night, this moment. The others failed, the creature continued. They died too young. Or fled their fate. But not you. You came back. Oh, you stood your ground. Weston couldn't speak. His mind raced through every memory that now made terrible sense. The fire at his childhood home. The voice that once whispered his name during a storm. The black bird that followed him from state to state. You have the mark of judgment, it said. Not to destroy, but to decide. And Weston understood. This wasn't about vengeance. It wasn't about punishment. It was about choice. The creature leaned forward. Its eyes, hollow yet burning, locked onto his. I'm ready, it said. End this. Before they find me. Before they find you. But Weston hesitated. What if killing it only scattered the darkness? What if the curse didn't die, but multiplied? Then he remembered the journal. The one his grandfather left hidden in the barn. The final page, smeared in dried blood, written in his trembling hand. If he speaks your name, you must choose. Not to kill, but to absorb. The pitchfork fell from his hands. Weston stepped forward. And for a moment, just one, the wind stopped. The stars dimmed. The field held its breath. Then everything went black. The darkness wasn't just around Weston, it was within him. When he stepped forward, the creature did not resist. It knelt, ancient and broken, eyes wide with a mixture of dread and longing. Its body trembled like a flame at the end of its wick. This is the moment, it whispered. The only end I ever dreamed of. Weston's hands burned with invisible fire. Something inside him cracked open, ancestral, terrible, divine. He no longer felt like a man, but a vessel. And the vessel was full. A voice rose in his mind, not his own, but familiar. A language older than language. A name that had not been spoken for 600 years. Let it be done. The creature began to scream. Its body convulsed, twisting in unnatural angles, as the wind howled through the cornfield. The sky fractured with thunder. Shadows peeled off the trees like sheets of skin, pulled toward the center of the storm, the bond between the damned and the chosen. Weston stepped closer. Every word the creature ever whispered. Every life it ever took. Every drop of sin it consumed, all poured into him. And yet, he remained standing. The earth cracked. The air reeked of burning flesh and bitter salt. Above, the stars dimmed one by one, as if turning away. Then the creature collapsed. Hollow. Empty. Its voice a ragged whisper. You did it. You ended me. Weston knelt beside it. But before he could speak, the creature opened one last eye. Pale. Almost human. Promise me, it breathed, no grave. No cross. Burn me until the bones turn black. Scatter me, where no name dares echo. And Weston did as it asked. He built a fire that roared into the sky. Fed it with wood, bone, and blood. Until not even ash remained. But the curse of the unforgiven ones was not just held in flesh. It lingered. Something ancient had shifted in the soil that night. And as Weston stood alone in the charred field, wind biting his face, he felt it. He was no longer being hunted. Now, he was being watched. The field is silent now. No wind. No whispers. Only the charred outline of where the fire once burned, blackened earth, scattered ash, and a single boot print pressed into the dirt. Weston never spoke of that night. Not to his family. Not to the town. He boarded up the barn. Sold the tractor. Left the land to rot. But something followed. The birds never returned. The corn never grew again. And every now and then, at the edge of the tree line, someone swears they see a tall shadow, watching, waiting, never moving. The nightmares returned first. Weston began waking with scratches on his chest, words carved into the skin in languages he couldn't read. He locked every door. Burned the journal. But still, the dreams came. And then, the disappearances began. 3 children. Vanished within a year. All within a 5-mile radius. The sheriff blamed coyotes. The town planted crosses. Weston knew better. Evil, he realized, is not a thing you kill. It is a seed you bury. And sometimes, the roots take longer to surface. He started writing again. Not in fear, but as warning. A second journal, hidden beneath the floorboards of a church no one attends anymore. In it, he recorded everything, rituals, bloodlines, the mark, the seal, the voice in the wind. But most chilling of all, the final entry. I feel it moving. Not near. Not far. Just, waiting. The ink ends mid-sentence. Today, the house stands abandoned. The windows boarded, the walls collapsing inward. No one dares enter. But on cold nights, if you walk past the edge of that field, some say you'll hear your name, whispered by something that never left. And if you answer, you'll never leave, either.